Awesome. So, yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for joining in, and we're starting slightly late today, so just to accommodate a wider audience from the US region as well. So, good morning to you guys, and good evening to people joining in from India as well. So, we're back with another session, and this is again in the process automation series, like the previous two, right? So, thanks for taking time again and joining us. So, as part of this series, today we're going to talk about how cloud computing is having an impact in the process automation world, particularly, right? And so, I'm Nitin, and like always, I'll be your host and moderator. And also, I'll try to be a fellow learner from our experts here. So, and today I have with me a powerhouse combination of our digital and cloud world. So, which is Mr. Pavithran, our CIO and head of digital business. And also, I have with me Mr. Adarsh, who is our engineering director and also our cloud computing subject matter expert. So together, Pavitran and Adarsh, they've worked together on supporting multiple industrial OEMs in their digital transformation journeys, and they come with real sort of implementation as well as consulting expertise, right? So I think we're in very good hands, and unfortunately, another speaker of ours, Mr. Sudhir, could not be here, but I think I'm sure we are in good hands to sort of take away learnings on the cloud computing and the process automation side of things, right? So, before we sort of get into the details of today's session, a couple of things. We always use our comment section to sort of leave in any questions that we have, and let us know, and we'll get back to it slightly later. And if possible, I'll always get the speakers to sort of get to them whenever relevant. If not, we'll come back to this at the later stage. So so yeah, so without wasting too much time, I think we'll start with whatever we wanted to talk about, right? So I'll jump into this for you, Pravitran. So firstly, I think it's important to understand the business side of things in terms of the larger picture of how cloud computing plays a role in the process automation side, and what the typical challenges that are involved, and sort of when do you go about this journey, and whether we go about this journey, and what the industry faces. So if you can touch upon those side of things, I think that will be very helpful for our listeners as well before we get into the technical side of things. Over to you.
Yep. Thanks, Nitin, for having me here. Greetings to all whoever has joined us. So Nitin, to understand, as we all know, process automation world is, dealing with enormous data and generates, volumes of data every day and deals with critical infrastructure. So this brings in, a lot of challenges for OEMs as well for system integrators. So we try to use different emerging technologies to address this. However, today we are more focusing on cloud computing. So if you see the large amounts of data, these systems are creating, and the need for scaling up the infrastructure is a key component. Unless we have a scalable solution or infrastructure addressing these, requirements from the automation point of view is a challenging, one of the key challenges. And most of the times, because of desperate systems in this landscape, we see data in islands. There are number of silos. So the collaboration between these systems to get right, holistic perspective on the data is always challenging. So that always leads to or impacts the collaboration across the organization or factories. And also, as I said, since we are dealing with the critical infrastructure, security plays a very important role. So how do we protect this infrastructure? How do we protect our intellectual property? And how do we not compromising on the productivity, do all these things? That a very important aspect. And and also, we from the business side always look at the ROI. While addressing these problems, we should not be investing too much into this. So how we can address these without investing much, how we can have control on the cost. And if you see today, the traditional way of doing process automation is demands a lot of systems, installations, configurations. Even if you are doing a testing, just a simple testing, factory automation testing, to replicate or simulate the factory types, you have to do a lot of configurations, installations in your own facility, to ensure our customers are protected and their systems are taken care. So these things really adds to the lead time and also to the cost. And integration across all these systems, like legacy to modern systems, as part of digital transformation. Many companies now going with the digital transformation, but we have multiple generations of systems in the process automation area. So how do we integrate these multiple systems with a different from the different OEMs? So these things are very critical from the process automation point of view. If we really wanted to get benefits, we need to address this without investing too much, because ROI again plays a key role. And a very another very important angle is ESG, right? How do we
Mhm.
still make this transformation sustainable? How do we bring that ESG perspective into this while we are doing all these things? So we always focus on our customers ESG point of view, how we can reduce the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, and how we contribute from using these technologies to address those areas as well. These are some of the challenges. There are many challenges. Some could be very specific to plants, or some could be very specific to geographies, but these are all more or less in common, Nitin. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks, Pavithran. I think if I just summarize what you said, right? So scalability is a big question there, and to sort of address that, the whole the data being siloed or in islands, and how the need for a scalable solution to foster better decision making while also keeping in check the ROI is where the industry is moving towards, and that's where I think OEMs are trying to align themselves, as well as how vendors like us to align towards their ESG parameters in terms of how they want to address the process automation challenges is also playing a big role, right? So I think that sets the context very well for probably what I want to come to next with Adarsh, right? Like from a technology and an implementation side of things, right? So how do you sort of envisage solving these legacy problems of siloed data, or in case even some cases where customers might sort of have that whole mindset of like having the whole on-prem solution, or whether should I even go towards the cloud side, how those migration things coming to the picture? There are multiple factors that play a role into this whole thing. How do you sort of see that whole thing pan out, and what goes into these migration when they sort of embark on that journey?
Hi, Nitin. Greetings to everyone. Yeah, Nitin, to answer to that, first, we'll have to understand why the organizations or the industries need this migration or moving this legacy applications to cloud. So, without answering to that, jumping into implementation would be an
Sure, sure.
difficult thing. So, what I would like to walk you guys through is like why the organization choose to move their legacy applications to cloud. So there are various factors to it. To name few, scalability. So as Pavithran mentioned, that plays a key role. What scalability? So cloud platforms offers you the limitless scalability, so that the organization can handle the increased amount of data, the traffic, without having to worry about their hardware limitations. So the next one would be the cost savings. So by migrating your on-premises applications to cloud, organizations can reduce the cost associated with maintenance, maintaining their hardware, software, and pay for only the resources which is needed at that moment, and they can scale as and when they grow. So the other factors would be like increased reliability and availability. Now that cloud platforms are designed in such a way, they provide high reliability, availability with built-in redundancy and failover mechanism. So your applications, the downtime of your applications, the recovery or the failure mechanism of an application becomes really fast. Then the improved security, obviously, just moving your applications or data without having a high level of security, it is very risky. So cloud provides you typically offers a range of security features which can helps you to control your data, the way it is transferred, or the way the applications consumes that data. And then last but not least, the faster deployment and innovations. So again, the cloud platform offers you the rapid deployment of your applications, enabling the faster time to market, and it also enables you to adapt to the latest innovations and the latest technologies or the services the cloud itself offers. These are some of the main reasons why uh, organizations are looking to move their legacy applications to cloud, or in other words, moving towards the modernization. Yeah. So now that we understand like the reasons why um, organizations looking for modernizing, now there are typically this migration strategy includes multiple things like environment setup, or migrating your environment from on-premise to cloud, or data migration, or your application migration, or all of the above. So typically, when we have on-prem setup or an application or the environment, so you need to set up the similar or much advanced environment setup where you can, or infrastructure setup on a cloud where you can easily migrate and run these applications and scale as and when you need. Then there comes the data migration and also the application migration. So these are various phases during our migration. The migration itself includes. So the data migration can be performed from an on-premises data servers to the, or the databases on the on-premises to the managed database services which cloud offers. So and we can use various data migration techniques. You can involve ETLs, or data factories and so on to perform this data migration activities. And then comes the application migration itself. So we'll have to understand how these applications are built, how tightly they are coupled. Probably you might need to re-engineer and rework loosely coupled and then migrate on cloud, which can easily scale. And migrating again to the cloud, you can migrate to the micro services or on the Kubernetes clusters, where you can individually migrate or scale this kind of an applications. So these are typical uh, things which are includes while during our migrations. So now one very important thing is we have to understand is this migration comes with a cost. Like this is a non-reversible process. So what we need is we need to identify the strategy. We need to discover. We need to assess. Since this being a non-reversible process, we have to pay real attention in terms of planning. So that's when all these points comes in, and we have to understand uh, what are the strategies and how do we address that. So there are various things. Say for example, to start with rehost. So maybe your application is already capable enough to directly host on a cloud. So in that case, you don't have to re-engineer your application or anything. So all you have to do is set up your infrastructure and rehost your application as is on the cloud. This would be one strategy. And the next one would be re-platform. Like you need to have your DB changes, or you need to have some infrastructure or other changes. So you need to re-platform and create a new platform and migrate your applications or your databases and so on. The next one is refactor itself. Now that typically the legacy applications are, if you go back, all these are written in older technologies, might not be easy to scale, might not be easy to maintain. In that cases, we need to refactor to adapt to the scalability and maintainability. So then we need to discover, assess, and re-engineer, or we call it as a cloudification, where we refactor the cloud so that it can be easily, the code can be easily migrated or implemented on the cloud. The next phase is the re-architect itself. Sometimes just by refactoring your code to adapt to the scalability might not help. You might have to dig deep and understand the architecture, what it was built on, how it was architected before, and then you need to re-architect itself so that keeping a future in mind, the amount of data that it can scale, the amount of the data inflow. So keeping all that in mind, you might have to re-architect itself, and then you have to follow that cloudification or re-platforming and re-hosting it on the cloud. The next one is you will have to assess your application and see, hey, how good I can retain this thing to migrate, or we have to assess and discover the legacy application is not really that easy to migrate. So then we might have to retire those application and build a new application itself, and then we can. Now that's also a strategy on cloud migration. You need not always move your legacy application there. Rather, you understand that business logic, what it is offering to the end users. So you can retire the existing application and rebuild and rehost on the cloud. So this understanding and this strategy at the early stage is very critical for any migration applications or any migration programs.
Great. I think thanks, Adarsh. I think thanks for going into so much detail of like what goes into the whole side of things, right? But also highlighting the real importance of what to take into consideration or plan before you sort of go about that whole journey. So, um, so I think coming to Pavitran, right? Like to just connect the dots between what you set the context with in terms of the challenges, and then what others spoke about in terms of the journey and the different strategies that are involved. Ultimately, the what really matters to the process automation industry itself is the business value and the sustainability side of things from an ESG goal, right? So, what sort of typical or the important business values that you look to solve when you sort of embark on this journey, so that that becomes a lot more meaningful in terms of an ROI perspective or in terms of an ESG goal meeting perspective. So, what are some of those real use cases and business value related aspects that come into the picture?
Yeah, Nitin, I think one good point what Adarsh mentioned is this whole process is non-reversible process, is reversible, right?
Mhm.
So when we are really taking up this modernization or journey, right, we need to be very we need to take a calculated approach.
Mhm.
So if you see the industry, right, in the last 5 to 10 years, uh, then especially from the process automation point of view,
Mhm.
the companies moved from no cloud to cloud first stuff, right?
Mhm.
So there is a big transformation happened from the business point of view. Most of these decisions are driven from the business. You know, when people said, no, this industry may not go to cloud, but most of those industries are now talking about cloud first.
Mhm.
Having said that, um, we also need to be a little cautious to really get the business value right. What is the right approach for us, whether it is a hybrid cloud or multi-cloud or a private cloud? I think others has covered it, but we need to first take such decision from the organizational point of view and the industry point of where we are operating. So once we have clarity, right, generally these kind of value companies like Utthunga can bring in, because we are more agnostic to any of these platforms. So we need to bring that perspective when we are choosing the path, because it is irreversible. So once we have the cloud in place, whether it is a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud, this opens up numerous avenues for us to drive efficiency, cost optimizations, scalability, and process improvements in number of industries like oil and gas and many other industries. So especially if you look at from the cost saving point of view, right, it gives us very good visibility from the supply chain angle. It helps us to understand where we are not doing good from the supply chain point of view, how we can bring in that plus one strategy, or multi sourcing. So these kind of cloud enables such resilience in the supply chain, thus helps in reducing the cost, and reducing the lead times, and improving the customer satisfaction from our end customers point of view. And once you have this connected ecosystem and cross functional collaboration, right, that brings in a lot of workflows into the system, which results into a lot of efficiencies. And also this would indirectly supports sustainability. This brings in overall sustainable transformation into the organizations by reducing the carbon emissions and the energy consumptions, because we have visibility, we have data across our systems, across our critical infrastructure. So we can control the energy, we can optimally use these systems across. And also this brings in flexibility, like how do we automate these things, or how do we produce these products in a right way, in the right location. And once we have this complete data in the cloud, it once we have the complete structured data and coherent data, right, we can analyze, and we can put this data into action, and we can generate a lot of insights out of this data. So choosing a right strategy, and implementing it in a very a calculated manner would really help our customers in the process automation space to reap the benefits of these emerging technologies, especially like cloud computing. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Pavithran. I think that summed it up beautifully in terms of how the real business impact of like how customers can leverage on state of the art technologies and the new age technologies from this industry standpoint, particularly, right? So let me check if I have some questions from the audience. If not, I have one point that I would like to sort of touch upon based on what you guys spoke about, right? Yeah. So I think this one's for you, Adarsh. So where
Okay.
so you also mentioned this, and Pavitran also touched upon this, right? Like, so there's all these different approaches to the whole cloud side of things, right? Multi cloud, hybrid cloud, private cloud, public cloud, and all these different options available. At a very high level, uh, what goes into sort of choosing that path, and typically I've also seen customers like having a setup of one of those, and what sort of really goes into choosing that journey, or because from what I understand, it's a very important decision to take when you go on, and like also you said, like it's an irreversible sort of thing to really realize the business impact, right? So what goes into the planning, and what sort of factors play a role in choosing what that option itself is?
Okay. Yeah. See, the point of having multi-cloud, using multi-cloud as a strategy or single cloud. So more than that, because various cloud partners like Azure, AWS, they provide various services.
Mhm.
So there is no hard and fast rule that I will have to fix to one provider. We can definitely leverage services across the cloud. So the point, what I would like to make is, since this is, as we mentioned, it's not a, once you get into this, it's not a reversible process. What we have to do is, how do we envision, or how do we get this thing going? So for that, we call that as a readiness phase, where we have to plan and discover this. We should have multiple discovery sessions, understanding the scope, understanding the conducting various workshops, access, where we check whether we have access to the customer systems, and no, the generate the feasibility report, which includes whether these applications are feasible to migrate, or, as I mentioned, we have to identify the various strategies. Then no, again, environment provisioning process, we need to understand whether what type of environment suits this kind of application, and enable those kind of an infrastructure, or the environment. Then comes the migration planning itself, and which can include solution architecture considerations, key design considerations, identifying the application interfaces, and check for the compatibility. Once these are all done, then the most important thing what I suggest is, do a small proof of migration, which will address most of your potential challenges that you might encounter when you are doing your application migration. Do a small POC, or a small proof of migration early, to identify all the potential challenges. Once this is ready, then you can adapt, reuse your technology, architecture, design, or refactor, reuse your code, and then get into your development and your user mapping, user sync, data sync, deploy your application. You might have to develop CI/CD, so on and so forth, and then address your scalability, performance, and security aspects of it. Then once all these are ready, you are ready. When enough testing is done, you are ready for go live. And post go live, there would be certain activities in terms of managing the solution, hosting, maintaining support, so on and so forth. So broadly, we would divide the migration strategy, or the approach would be to readiness, then the implementation, then go live, and then the post go live.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I think we're on the dot. So, any final words, maybe Pavithran, from your side before we sign off? If not, we can definitely see if anyone has any questions. If not, we can. Yeah, any final words before we sign off?
Yeah, I think that's what the summary is. Process automation industry, deals with enormous data.
Yeah.
Taking a right, decision, which is a strategic decision from the technology point of view, without compromising on the ESG and other factors, would play a critical role in achieving the long-term vision of any organization. And partnering with an organization which has domain expertise. Many times we focus on the technology piece, but
Yeah.
having the right domain expertise, like oil and gas, OT, whatever it is. So once the partner can bring in such capabilities from the domain and the technology point of view, I think that's the right combination, or a recipe for the success of the any digital transformation in the process automation industry. Anything, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for summarizing. So I know, see, like most of you guys have a lot to sort of. I can pick your brains all day, but anyway, we wanted to keep all these sessions slightly short. But from an audience perspective, if you guys have any sort of requests on things you want to sort of hear from these guys, uh, I can always pull them in whenever you like, so we can see what we can organize. But again, this was particularly part of our process automation series, and how Utthunga as a company, we're very focused on combining that domain expertise with the technology piece itself, right? And that's where our sort of vision is towards, and what we work with customers also. And again, for we'll be back with another session very soon, and this is again related specifically to the oil and gas space, where we have domain experts as well as technology experts talking about the digital oil field solutions. So that will be pretty soon, and filled with good insights. So until the next session, I think that's it from our side. So if you have any questions, just drop it in, and we can always get back to it even after the session. So thanks, Pavithran, thanks, Adarsh, and
Thank you.
thanks, guys. So we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.